Hello and welcome to We Never Met, the podcast where I have interesting strangers I've never met before on. Today we have Kyle Vetter. Is that how you say your last name?
That is, yeah.
Nailed it. Any relation to, is it Eddie Vetter? Is that who?
Yeah, he's my uncle.
That would be crazy, though.
That was my story growing up anyway.
Yeah.
But it's funny because he's DDER
Oh,
and I'm
yeah,
TTER.
that's true.
Yeah,
True.
So if you don't see it written down, people fall for it.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
I have the same problem with Kierkegaard, who's a philosopher.
Yeah.
Danish philosopher, spelled differently, but I always just say, yeah, I'm related.
For sure.
Because why not?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And you are the owner of 1840 Brewing.
That's right.
Yeah. And we are here actually right now, as you can see on the video. But essentially, I wanted to reach out to you. I've never talked to an owner of a brewery before in my life.
Cool.
So I have so many questions.
Yeah.
So many things that I'm curious about. And before we even started, we were talking about the brand in general.
Sure.
So where does 1840 come from, first of all?
So 1840 was the first year a commercial brewery started in the city of Milwaukee.
Oh.
And that's neat because that's 6 years before we were actually a city.
Yeah.
And so it calls to mind both the types of beers we make. We make a lot of historical styles that are old. We make them in oak barrels.
Yeah, you can
and
see
we
them
don't
all
have.
over there.
Yeah, you can see them everywhere. And we don't have a very automated anything. The most automated thing we have in here is a pump. So it does two things. It pays homage to Milwaukee's rich brewing heritage while also calling to mind the types of beers we make.
Sure. So where does all the conceptual design for all the bottles and stuff come from? Where did that go?
I work with a firm here in Bayview called Rev Pop.
Okay.
And they're a design and marketing firm. They do some stuff in the beverage and food industry, but they do things across, anybody who's interested in marketing services.
Yeah.
And it was fun because I reached out to them when we first started and was like, okay, my brand is a number. So good luck with that, because I also need to have merchandise and other things that are appealing. And at the end of the day, just looking at the four numbers over and over is going to probably get old. So one thing a lot of people miss in our logo is the turtle. I don't know.
Let me see if I can see it.
Not on the glass, but check this out.
I was going to look at your shirt.
So on the coaster here, you can see it.
Oh, I do see it. Yeah, right there.
So on the top of the logo is a turtle where his shell is an oak barrel with a tap in it.
Okay.
And so, our slogan is drink slow beer.
Yeah.
And it's because a lot of the beer we make is extensively aged, or in some cases fermented and then aged directly in oak barrels.
Right. Yeah.
And so we have beers that we can put in an oak barrel in there. It's in there for 3 or 4 months. And we have other beers. We have a project right now where we're going to have a beer that's going to be in a barrel for 18 months before we release it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does it ever get frustrating for you? Because I feel like it would be hard for me to wait. Maybe that's the millennial inside of me. I'm 18 months.
It's hard. It was harder when we first started.
Oh, I bet. Because you're trying to get production out and stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And these are all new recipes, and I'm nervous. Are they going to taste good? Are they almost ready? And all this stuff. We have timelines. And so I wanted to taste them all the time. So I made a rule that we never touch a barrel. Let's say we take a sample, we don't even think about it for another month.
Yeah.
So the most we would ever sample a barrel will be once a month. But really, we don't even do it that much anymore. We really know, okay, this beer is going to need to be in there for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
And before we even want to think about it. And so we'll just leave it there for 6 months, and then we'll check back in and start maybe our monthly check-ins in order to, figure out when it's exactly ready.
Sure. Yeah. And so I guess where does that whole concept come from? Because you have a very unique approach to brewing, which is different than, I mean, I'm not that familiar with the brewing game, but I've never seen this sitting in someone's brewery. So where did that come from? Yeah.
It kind of all started. So I used to brew. My most recent job before this, my longest period of being at any one brewery was Aspen Brewing Company.
Yeah.
And we made a ton of beer there, and we did barrel projects every once in a while.
Okay.
And that was the stuff that I really just found super fascinating.
Yeah.
I love brewing. The act of brewing is something I really enjoy doing.
Sure.
I read about it. I study it. I follow brewers on social media. I'm really into it. But the thing that just really just inspired me more was barrel aging and barrel fermenting.
Yeah.
And I came across a number of years ago Side Project Brewing in St. Louis.
Okay.
And this guy, Corey King, was the head brewer at Perennial, which is a well-known St. Louis brewery.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do the same thing. He had come from the wine world, wanted to do the same thing. And he actually tucked some barrels in the corner and his boss was like, yeah, you can take those, make them your brand, launch your own brand. And he's gone on to find great success under that brand.
Wow.
And so I came across him and I was like, that is a really unique idea.
Yeah.
And while I chatted with the owner of Aspen about maybe possibly doing something like that,
sure,
it just didn't align with his game plan, and which was fine. We're still buddies. So we just decided, all right, let's look into this, doing it on our own.
Sure.
And I grew up in the Milwaukee area. So we decided to bring the project back here because at the time we were looking at this.
Yeah.
There were things like this in other parts of the country and other beer markets, but the Milwaukee market was incredibly underserved at the time.
Yeah.
And so we decided to, all right, let's dive in, let's follow the passion and bring it to a new market so we can kind of be on the cutting edge and expose people to new things and hopefully get them excited about our brand.
Yeah. So you grew up here, right?
I grew up in Milwaukee.
Mequon. Okay.
Yep.
So when you were growing up, was this like your thought? Like, were you like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a brewer.
Definitely not.
I'm going to own my own business. Like, what was your ideal? Like, what were you growing up and being like, I want to go to this? Because you went to college in Colorado.
Yep.
So did you go for something similar or something completely different?
I joke and I say I went for skiing.
You went for the mountains.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I went for the recreational lifestyle.
Yeah.
I grew up enjoying that stuff.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to camp and hike and climb and ski.
And it's beautiful there too.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I didn't define my major until I was a junior. And I ended up getting a humanities degree because my counselor was like, you only need X number of credits. You just have to take like 2 summer school courses, and you'll graduate on time with a humanities degree. And I was like, perfect.
I was just kind of picking different things to do.
And that's what happened. She's like, well, really, if you look at the classes you've taken, you focused on 3 areas of study, psychology, sociology, and political science. So if we just define those as the 3 focuses, one main and 2 minor focuses of your humanities degree, you're done.
Like, oh, okay, let's do that then.
Yeah. But then while at college, I developed a taste for beer while still living here.
As you would.
Much to my mother's chagrin while I was in high school. But then I got out to college, and in Colorado, the beer scene had already been moving for a while.
Oh, has it?
Oh, yeah.
Faster than here?
Oh, yeah. They'd been developed. At the time, in my town, in Durango, Colorado, there was more breweries per capita than any other town in the state of Colorado at that time.
Yeah.
And it was a small town. It was about the size of the town I grew up in.
Okay.
And so we had like 5 breweries. So it was part of the culture there. And I got to, get exposed to a lot of things like unique beers with weird flavors.
Right, because everybody was brewing different stuff and trying to be unique, and I'm assuming,
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, the little liquor store down the street from my house had like 3 cooler doors of Colorado beers or medium-sized craft breweries from around the region. And it gave me the opportunity to explore flavors that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah. Well, did you take any inspiration from that to the beers you make now? Is there anything that you pulled from even that experience?
All along the way, I suppose, I like to think of myself as a lifelong learner. And so it's like, I'm trying to just pull from what I can remember of my history of these different experiences and incorporate that into new beers. So we're trying to follow trends and move with the market, but we're also trying to do things that are super historical or, I had a beer that I really liked at this one time and it was memorable. Let's try to do something like that. Yeah.
So talk about your experience at Aspen Brewing and how that was, because was that your first job in the brewing industry and like beer? Was that the first one you had?
No, a couple months after I turned 21 in Durango, I got the job.
You were right into it.
Oh yeah. I started brewing when I was 20, home brewing, because I got my fake ID taken away.
Oh.
And I was like,
screw that, I'm gonna do it.
Let's make some beer,
Yeah. I don't need you guys.
And thankfully our first batch turned out pretty good. And I really enjoyed the process and started really learning about it and reading. I never really, like I said, I was turned on to this whole new world.
Yeah.
And then SCA was hiring, and I got a job at the bottom, just packaging and cellaring, and had a I had a pretty good chunk in there where I, quote, got a real job.
Okay.
Moved back here, sold real estate. I went to start a restaurant. It's a long story. But anyway,
there was a gap
in there.
Yeah.
Well, we started down the path of a restaurant. It didn't end up working out with my partner.
Was it here in Milwaukee?
Yep, in this area. And then, so I got out of that rather quickly, but I had already moved here. Yeah. And my wife was about to move here. And my mom is a very successful real estate agent in this area.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, I could use some help.
Yeah.
Come work for me and see how you like it, until you figure out what you want to do.
Sure.
Turns out I really liked it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love looking at real estate, so.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I got my license. I sold a myriad of things. We did, I was involved in almost $70 million in real estate transactions in 5.5 years. Yeah.
That's really good.
It was good.
Yeah.
But also, it burned me out. I just kind of I dreaded when my phone would ring.
Yeah.
Because it was always going to be some fire I had to put out.
Oh, yeah. What do you think about that job you didn't necessarily like? Like, what was it specifically? Was it like interacting with people that have like too many wants? Because that's what I always feel like it would be. Yeah. Like, I want everything, but I only can spend $100,000. So,
totally. Yeah. The people part was the part that I liked. Okay. I liked looking at the properties, and I liked working with the people. Yeah. Contracts were cool too, but it was the negotiation part when everybody's at their worst, right?
Yeah.
I would joke that a real estate deal comes together when everyone's equally as unhappy as everyone else.
That's when you finally are like, fine.
All right, cool. We're done now.
Yeah, okay.
We did it.
Everyone's sad.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And then a closing comes and everyone's happy again, whatever. Yeah. But you'd have this really intense relationship with people for 2 to 6 months.
Right.
And then you never talk to them again. So
it was weird. Yeah, you don't think about that.
Thing.
Because you think about you're selling them a house, so you're changing their life. That's great. But you don't think about they're going to try to negotiate you down, and you have to talk to the sellers about that, and it becomes like.
And then the other agents who's totally not on your team is going to come at you about, because they're doing the same thing for their client.
Right.
So it was, and we did a lot of business.
Yeah.
There was years there where we were, 50, 60 transactions in a year. So it's just a lot of work. You're closing a house almost a week. It's just a lot of work. And so,
does your mom own her own real estate company?
She does now.
I think
actually.
What is it?
She's got Remax Gallery in Mequon.
For some reason, I thought it was. There's one up north a little bit more. It's like Powers or Kelly. I thought that was it.
No, not them.
They're the rivals.
Yeah, we don't need to mention that. Give them a free plug.
Yeah,
but Remax Gallery on Port Washington Road and Mequon Road in Mequon. No.
Yeah, go there if you need a house or you need a.
Yeah, no, it's interesting actually because she started her real estate career and they were in this one building for a little bit, and then they moved into this other building. Mm-hmm. It was Federated Realty, then it became Coldwell Banker, all while she was there.
Yeah.
And then actually a year after I moved back to Colorado, 2011, 2012, they moved offices. Oh. Well, what do you know? A couple of years later, my mom's opening her own firm, and she ends up renting that same building that she basically had her entire career in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's just kind of fun, full circle kind of thing. She remodeled it, made it beautiful, and that's what she's got going on. So that's doing it. That's
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, since you started home brewing, what is the difference for you? Because I feel like there's a lot of people. I mean, I read some statistics somewhere that there's more craft breweries starting up in the U.S. every single day than there are any other business. So what were you like? Were you very confident going into this? Were you like, I know how to make this different? Because you're extremely successful. In my estimation, at least.
The feedback has been awesome about the beers and the space. We've kind of tried to cultivate a unique experience that's friendly. I mean, we're sitting at the bar here, and it's like family style at this end of the bar. You can sit on both sides. So maybe you sit with someone you came with on the same side, and you sit across from someone and strike up a conversation. We wanted that family vibe.
Yeah.
So anyway, the feedback's been good about the space and how it's different, and we are definitely finding success, but I did not have the confidence to know that we were going to be in the position we're in when we started, but also didn't know that we were kind of towards the beginning part of this huge wave of breweries that are opening.
Sure.
So if you look at the Milwaukee market, the class of 15, 16, if you will, Third Space, Good City, City Lights, a couple other breweries, there was boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I think when it came down to it, when we opened, and then Gathering Place opened 2 weeks after us, we were somewhere, I think it was somewhere 13 breweries in 16 months, it's a staggering stat.
Yeah.
And it's slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah.
That has been the trend across the market, and where that burst happens to come, where breweries line up, has been different. But that wasn't something that I'd seen happening as much.
Sure.
We wanted to get into this, and we knew that breweries were opening and finding success, but you didn't hear about as many of them when we started the whole process to plan and find the building and renovate it and all these things. And that kind of changed while we were getting open. It was wild to kind of see all these breweries popping up and continue to pop up.
Yeah, still do now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think at least in my estimation from talking to you for, 30 minutes up to this point, do you think the difference, because I feel like there's a lot of breweries that are out there that fail, obviously within the first year. Do you think it's the passion that you have is that what kind of differentiates you? You're like, I want to go above and beyond and think of new ways, because I legitimately go home and do all this stuff anyways.
Sure.
Yeah.
I definitely think that passion is kind of like the secret ingredient.
Yeah.
If you really care about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's all aspects of it. It's not just the beers we're making, even though we put a lot
marketing,
of thought into that. It's all that.
Yeah, branding.
Exactly. It's the vibe. The music we play, all the things. We think about all of that. The art on the walls. It's all, thoughtful, and we care really a lot about all that. And I think that's kind of that and time, as far as the barrel aged stuff, are the secret ingredients that we definitely capitalize on.
Yeah.
And you can tell also, I have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to have had a couple of jobs throughout my career in brewing.
Yeah.
And learned from some really talented people.
So it wasn't just let's just start one because I homebrew in my basement.
My uncle tells me my beers are great.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like some people start though because of that. They're like, oh yeah, I really love to brew beer in my basement, so let's just start a brewery and see what happens.
And I've said this before, anybody who starts a brewery as a home brewer with no professional experience and finds success, my hat is off to you, because it is not.
I don't know how you do it, because I don't know where to start. I don't even know where to start.
Totally.
If I got a home brewing kit, which I have looked into.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, but I've looked into more of wine.
Sure.
I've tried to. I'm I really kind of want to make wine for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's just the making of something.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. But you got to know how to do it. It's so complex, and that's what I was going to ask you. What are some of the, especially with the barrel aged stuff, what are some of the challenges that you run into doing that? Is it? Do you ever? Is it at a point now where you're so kind of refined where there isn't a barrel that's off and you have to chuck it?
No, we've definitely dumped some beer.
Yeah.
More beer than I would like. I never want to put.
What makes it get to that point where you have to dump it?
One time we had a batch of beer that we underpitched some yeast. We tried to reuse some yeast, and it just wasn't enough of a cell count. The yeast wasn't as viable as we thought, and so that beer developed acetone flavors like nail polish remover.
Yeah.
Which is a natural byproduct of fermentation, but normally through active fermentation, it doesn't really have a chance to develop. And if it does, it gets cleaned up because fermentation's still going and all these things. Well,
sure.
So there was a problem. It's the batch didn't turn out. We had to dump it.
Okay.
But we knew what the problem was, right?
Yeah.
But then in the barrel stuff, sometimes, you just have one that doesn't taste good. It's in this porous vessel for 18, 20 months, whatever, 6 months. It doesn't even matter. It's a long time.
Yeah.
And there's risks for sure. So we've been lucky that we haven't had to put a lot of our barrel aged stuff down the drain. Because if you think about it, that's our most expensive beer we make. More expensive than our double IPAs and all this stuff that we dump a lot of hops into.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because those barrels are sitting there taking up precious limited space that we have for a long period of time, paying rent and not making any money.
Right. Yeah. So, just squatting, just waiting.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, what do you think? What was the space before, by the way? What was in here before?
So in this particular unit was a t-shirt printing company who's now since moved to the south side. It had been vacant for a while. When the building was built, it was all one big building all the way here to Kinnickinnick. And it was some industrial use, although I don't recall what that was. I should, because Bobby Tanzillo from Milwaukee did a brewery spelunking podcast. It's a thing he writes about, and he actually like wrote right in there what it was, but I can't remember.
You just glossed over it.
Yeah, no, I remember. I was like, oh, that's really not exciting. It's just a normal thing.
It was too like not weird that you wouldn't remember.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was too mundane. But like, so what has been your proudest moment like since opening? What has been like a really cool experience? Has it just been the, I guess, people's reaction to this, because it has been so positive. I have met every single person that has come here or gotten beer here has told me to come.
That's incredible.
And I have this is my first time coming.
I mean, that right there is what, so for me, the fact that we've grown this business to what it is based on word of mouth and social media is awesome and special. But the two things I'm most proud of are, at one point last year in the spring. So when we were first open, we were only open 1 weekend a month.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And of that weekend, it was 4 days, but only one was for the public. 3 days were for members only.
Okay.
And so really, I was open to the public once a month.
Yeah.
Sometimes more, because we do like pop-up events, Halloween, New Year's, whatever. But one month, I think it was March or April of last year, we had a line that wrapped around the block to get in for the public day. We had. Did
you like cry that day? I probably would have been so excited. Proud.
Yeah, I wasn't like. I couldn't get that emotional because I had to serve all those people.
Yeah, they were waiting.
I was like, holy crap! Okay, game time.
Kyle's taking a break. He has to go.
Exactly. Like all right, we need to be ready to rock. So we kind of had to get ourselves pumped up, but it was really cool. I mean, while it's not the customer experience I wanted, and we made some changes to our business to eliminate the lines, it was really, really neat. An hour and 10-minute wait to get in the building. We sold out of one of our beers that we were releasing that day in like 2.5 hours. It was crazy. Yeah. So that was probably really cool. And like I said, we made changes to kill the line because I want people to come in here casually and enjoy beers and not have to feel like they have to like
wait in the cold,
be here in the cold or the rain or whatever, early in the morning, camping out and stuff.
Yeah.
And then other than that, it's just the fact that the feedback and the word of mouth. I mean, the feedback on the internet and all, everywhere where we can gather data from people as far as ratings or other things, they're all really, really great. And it's, that's what tells me that we're doing a good job. Is anytime I get a 5-star review on anything we do, any platform, it's like, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Like we're keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah. Cause I mean, that has to, I've never had an experience in my life yet. And I hope to have one day where people line up around the block for something that I'm doing.
For sure.
That is so cool.
It was really cool. Like I said, while it was touching for me, it was still like, okay, now that we've created
now I really
problem,
have to do this.
Yeah. We've created a problem. It's like, we need to fix this.
Yeah.
Most breweries be like, boom, this is exactly where we need to be.
I
just want that line to get longer and longer and longer.
And,
maybe we should have kept that and we should have just continued down that road. But I think what's cool now is that we're touching more people than we ever have. Even when we were getting lines, it was always kind of like the same group of people every month.
Sure.
But now what's been great is those people, I think, appreciated the fact that we made some changes to our business, pre-sold some beers to kill the line. They've always had a good experience when they come and they tell their friends.
Yeah. Was the line the only really thing that made you change your business? Like, at the beginning it was, you said, memberships pretty much. Were those like, you sell memberships to someone and they can come in on a weekend or something? Is that essentially what it was?
So we sold memberships. So we were always open to the public the second Saturday of the month.
Yeah.
And then we were open Thursday, Friday, and Sunday surrounding that second Saturday.
Yeah.
And that was it. And the members purchased their day. So some members were Thursday members, some were Fridays. And then the public came on Saturday. But really what it was is like, I sold out of a beer in 2.5 hours. People who were waiting in line didn't get the beer they wanted.
Oh, okay.
And that's what made me change it.
Yeah.
And so all we did was, because it's inventory management. The reason that we were having these quick sellouts is because I couldn't make a lot of beer. And so we've done two things. We for a while pre-sold all of our bottles to the public.
Gotcha.
And we also have reinvested in the business.
Yeah.
I bought more tanks and bigger tanks, and we can make a lot more beer now. I've hired more staff, and I've done everything I can to make more.
Yeah.
To try to just keep the customer experience how I would want it to be. Like, I don't want to. I hate waiting in lines. I know a lot of beer people love it.
Do they?
Oh yeah. And it's funny. I had a guy the other day. I was like, you like it? He's like, well, yeah, because I always drink better beers waiting in line for the beer I'm waiting for.
That's kind of true.
Than the one that I'm about to buy. He's like, but everybody brings all these fun beers and we're hanging out.
Yeah.
It's just an excuse to meet with your friends and stand around drinking cool stuff for a while.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And so beyond that, I mean, you guys have also expanded into doing like collaborations and stuff with other breweries. How many have you done? Do you have a count? Has it been a lot?
Yeah, it has been. We're going to be somewhere between 12 and 15 by the end of this month, or by the middle of April.
Okay.
And that's just this year.
How does that process work? Like, what is a collaboration for breweries? Because I always wonder that. Is it ideas? Is it like sharing facilities, or is it all of that?
To be honest with you, there's a couple of different ways to approach it.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, the main thing that it is just going and hanging out with your friends or some people that are new friends.
Yeah.
And making beers with them so that you can be exposed to their customers.
Okay.
That's really all it is. There's no financial, like, I don't get any money from these beers.
I
go and I brew at this other brewery. It's their beer. They keep it, they sell it. You know, now if it's a Wisconsin brewery, thankfully, the laws allow where I can purchase kegs from them and sell them here. So my customers can try this beer that I help make.
Yeah.
But if it's an out-of-state brewery, like I've worked with Forbidden Root and Microphone down in Chicago area, just came back from Minneapolis where I work with Dangerous Man and Back Channel.
Yeah,
I cannot serve those beers at my tap room because Wisconsin doesn't allow me to serve out-of-state beers under my brewery license.
Okay.
So at that point, it's really just about meeting new people, hanging out and learning something. Like, I'll tell you what, every time I go to a collaboration, I learn something, and I know that they learn something from me, and we have a great time, and we always make cool beers. But you know, it's really about exposure, and it's a cool it's a cool thing that we can do in beer because it's such a social product.
Yeah, innately, yeah. You want to go out and hang out with someone and drink a beer, you know?
Yeah. And what do you do over beer? You sit around and talk yourself. And And so it's the community is just so amazing in beer. And that's actually, my wife and I love, that's really the reason that we like decided to start a brewery, is because we just love the community of it. Beer's been bringing people together for centuries.
Yeah.
You know, as long as there's been humans cultivating grains, there's been beer.
Yeah.
And, it's been bringing communities together that entire time. So we love that. And there's no other industry that I've ever seen that is as collaborative. You know, like what, you know, you make a widget and I make a widget. I'm like, why don't you come over and we'll make a widget together?
Yeah.
And I'll teach you all of my tricks and you teach me all your tricks.
Right.
Like,
right. No, not a chance.
No, this is proprietary. Like, why did you even call me? You know?
No, it's not talking to me now.
Exactly.
Yeah. But so I guess with that component, when you went back, and like, I guess you could feel that feeling when you first decided, like, hey, this is like really cool and I love this. Like, where do you think that came? Like, what about the community as well is something that you just truly like, it hit your heart and it made you like go out and do it? Because like, that's for a lot of people. A lot of people don't find their passion or like find what they like to do. But like, what was that feeling? Like, what was that, do you think?
There's something special about working really, really hard, using your hands and your mind and creating something that you've never made before, and then making that and then sharing it with people and having it like bring joy to their lives. Yeah. It's a really cool thing. And I fell in love with that in Aspen. It's like, we were working really hard, making a ton of beer, and then you'd like go and you'd meet people and be like, man, these beers are great. Thanks for doing that and stuff. And like, so you're getting like, you know, gratitude from people just for doing your job. You know, where like a lot of jobs are thankless. You know what I mean? Not all of them, but some are. And so, you know, I'm lucky to have that. Yeah. But yeah, it was just, I just really enjoy making and then drinking the beers, and the creative aspect of it and the community aspect of it are just the best parts. And that's what like warms the heart. How have you,
like, what creatively do you put into beers? I know you use like, I saw this, you use like different kind of hops that are just like, what are those?
That's actually in the beer I'm drinking here. So we try to find new ingredients, new processes, or let's call it a classic process or classic ingredient, but it's not well known anymore, things like that. So we try to like really, I'm a student of beer in general, and I try to like pull from history and the future and put it all together to create unique flavors. So in this case, we found a hop, it's called Sabro, and it was bred from a new lineage of hops that was found growing wild in the mountains of New Mexico. Oh. So most hops, even though a lot of them are grown in the United States, are of European lineage. And so we've been, we brought these noble varieties and these other German and European hops over here and have cultivated them, and they grow here very well. Yeah. But they're all that same family. Okay. Whereas this was a uniquely different hop. Yeah. And so it's called Neo-Mexicanus. And so it's the same family, but it's just a different strain altogether. Okay. And so they found it. It was difficult to grow because it didn't, at least for cultivating for commercial purposes, it was difficult to grow. Yeah. Because it didn't produce a lot of hops. So it took them a while to figure out how to breed it. And once they did, and they realized it creates all these cool flavors. So it's real tropical fruity, but also has this creamy coconut vanilla kind of undertone to it.
How do you find those kind of, like, do you just keep up with, like, where do you find that? Because I feel like a lot of people would know about that. Where do you find that?
They don't. So like I said, this is what I do. I mean, I read about beer, like all the people I follow on social media are breweries or hop growers or whatever. I'm just trying to keep a pulse on the market. So that we can figure out what's coming.
So what is your favorite beer to drink? Like what do you like?
Well, that's a tough question. It kind of depends on like what we're doing. Okay. Are we eating? Are we just hanging out? Are we going to be drinking for a long time, or is it just a short period? Okay. Is it are we going to sit down and think about this? Like, tasting and drinking are two totally different things.
Right. Because that's another interesting thing. Because don't you have people in here and you kind of go through tastings? Is that a thing that you do?
We've done some tasting events. Yeah. I'll do private tours for groups of 5 or more where we'll taste a couple of beers together. Yeah. And that's completely different than sitting out and hanging, drinking. Sure. Like, sure, you're thinking about it maybe while you're drinking, like, that was good. Yeah. But tasting, you're really like digging into the beverage and trying to figure out, what are you experiencing? What are you tasting? Relating that to other things. So
yeah. Do you find that is that important for marketing too? Because I feel like that would be really important for me. Like the tasting process and being like, this tastes kind of like blah blah blah. Like that, you'd want to know that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a really important process, just generally.
It is. Yeah. It takes practice. We practice all the time. We like to, if we think we're gonna, this hop has been hard to find because it's new. But let's say we were thinking about using a hop that we could get. Yeah. We might go buy a couple commercial examples and try them. Yeah. And be like, okay, I like this about this beer. I don't like that about that beer. Sure. And then using our past history of brewing experience, we're going to put that back together to try to compose a beer that's what we want based on the things we try.
Okay. Yeah. And that's another good thing. Cause it's like, I feel like you have a very good pulse on just marketing in general. Cause I'm assuming that you guys haven't spent that much on marketing. Is it mostly word of mouth and like doing stuff yourself, like shooting your own videos and stuff like that? How'd you decide to do that? Like what was the thought process behind that?
When you're bootstrapping a small business, you don't have any other choice.
You just go for whatever's free pretty much. Yeah.
And I've always had an interest in photography. I've always enjoyed photography and composition. Yeah. And so those are other things that I like to do. And like I said, I pay attention to what all these other breweries are doing. Yeah. And just like when we design a beer, it's like, oh man, look at that. Like, look at the angle on that. For example, Modern Times, they take almost the same photo of all of their beers. Oh. It's always from down below. You can see the glass fills the entirety of the frame. Okay. All of these little things that I noticed about how they take beer photos. And I don't do every single one like that. I like a little bit more variety. Sure. But I still take a lot of beer photos because I saw this other brewery do it. Yeah. Yeah. And so how we talk about beer. Like one time I read a beer review, like, here we got this new beer coming out, and I can't even remember. It was just an absurd collection of words. I wish I could even think of one of them, but it was like
a customer or a person at the brewery.
This was a brewery. Yeah. Oh. They were marketing a new beer they were about to release. And it was like, walks through the juniper woods, mossy juniper wood, whatever. You're
like,
none of those things have tastes. Like, what do you, but like, they just painted this picture and it was so interesting to read. And like, it made the beer sound probably better than it tasted. But I think the point was like, the takeaway for me is like, if we can describe the beer in a way that makes it sound like something that's interesting or delicious. Obviously without lying or not pointing out something that's actually there.
Right.
People are going to be really excited when they come in and try that and all those things are there.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, yes, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
It's more fun then, so we try to use, so that's what the takeaway from that. So like I said, I just study all this stuff and I try to like put it back in a way that works. Cause really right now I wear all the hats. So like thankfully I've got some bar staff and some brewers who are helping, and my wife and I figure out how to do everything else. But we've got just a lot going on in our lives and it's hard and to try to keep it all straight, but but it's fun. So just make it happen.
Was she into beer before she met you? Was she into like brewing and stuff?
She's still not that into beer. She loves drinking beers with me. Like we enjoy beers together.
Sure. Yeah.
But she's not into, like, she doesn't care about like beer photography or beer descriptions like the new hop on the market. Like she's like, how's the new beer tasting? I'm like, really good. Try it. Oh, that's delicious. That's her extensive excitement. You know, she's like, nice work. That's great. It's not about, so for me, it's like, it's funny. So growing up, my mom and my dad both loved their jobs. Like my mom really, really loved real estate. She was very successful. My dad is a tennis professional. Loves his job, been very successful. Incredible. Midwest Professional Tennis Association Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Yeah. Pro of the Year, USPTA, like 6 times. I mean,
what? Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. He's had an amazing career, but it was one of those things where I was kind of like, I can't believe that this guy's coming home and turning on tennis. And then,
after you just played,
play tennis all day. Yeah. And then he's turning on tennis, and then he comes and, and then I'll see him and he's reading a book from a tennis guy or something. I'm like, man, how are you doing so much tennis? Yeah. And I'm like, I like tennis, but like, man. And beer is that for me. Yeah. And so, it kind of taking that experience from my childhood and like seeing that and seeing how they built their careers out of something they were passionate about and enjoyed doing all of the time, that kind of implanted in me, even though I didn't really realize it. I was like, I just need to find something that I enjoy doing all the time. Yeah. And that's how we're going to guide and direct what we're going to do for money. Yeah. Cause before you found like home brewing and stuff like that, were you just kind of, I know you said you got a humanitarian degree. Were you kind of just like chilling, like where you just kind of living life? I was just trying to be in the moment and do my thing. You know what I mean? Like I liked a lot. I like sports. I like recreating. And I mean, I was fortunate to have a pretty stress-free upbringing. Like I didn't have a lot of turmoil or strife or any of those things that I had to overcome. I just was able to be a kid and grow up and experience things. So it's like, I don't know. I didn't really need any direction. I was just, I'm in school now because that's what you do when you're at this age. Right. Yeah. And then you just kind of found it. Yeah. And it's like, okay, you need to get a job to pay some bills. Like that wasn't why you were doing that work at that time period when you're a kid. You know what I mean? Right. You're doing that work because you want to go to the pizza joint after school or whatever. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But even before this, you had another business, right? That you started. You had a consulting business for. Yeah. So I think you're talking about the crafter space and the Barley to Barrel. Yeah. That was a fun project. I helped some friends start what's called the crafter space. Yeah. And put together a 10-week brewery incubator program called Barley to Barrel. Okay. And that program has gone on to spit out a lot of breweries, actually. So these people come in, whatever stage they're at. One of the qualifying questions we asked during the admittance interview was, do you plan to start a brewery in the next 1 to 3 years? And if the answer wasn't yes, we didn't accept them. Okay. We got a little bit more loose as like we had more class space and stuff like that. The first year we had very limited space, but as we took people who were like, well, maybe, because to me that was cool too. Yeah. Like if you're a maybe and you walk out of the other end as a no, I felt like that was a win for me also. Yeah. Because now you can go on and you can find the thing that you do want to do.
Right, exactly. You check that off your list.
Exactly.
Go on to the next thing.
But it was really neat. I mean, a lot of breweries. So Copper State up in Green Bay, they came through the program. Brewfinity out in Oconomowoc, we have a collaboration that we did with them. They came through. The New Barons, who are Milwaukee's first brewing co-op, came through. You know what I mean? And the list goes on.
Yeah.
We've actually had students who we've placed at other breweries as brewers and things. So
was this before you opened 1840?
We were kind of working on the crafter space, and the Barley to Barrel was all kind of happening simultaneously as we were creating 1840.
Yeah.
And I mean, now I'm not as involved because I'm so busy with this.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of just helped it get going. And now it's like, you know, you guys do wherever you go, wherever you want with that.
Yeah. Cause I was going to ask, did you learn stuff from helping other people kind of go through that process before you started your brewery and being like, oh, well, I should watch out for that, or I should do that differently?
Yeah. I mean, I was thankfully, and I think this is one of the reasons that the coursework became beneficial, is because I was going through this, like kind of just a few steps ahead of our planning and execution of the program. So I'm like, well, we really need to talk about this, and this.
Yeah.
You know, also I've had a bunch of friends start breweries and helped in various capacities. You know, when I was in property management, I helped a brewer out in Colorado find a space because I had moved out there and I was only brewing at Aspen part-time. And I was doing property management. I got my license out in Colorado and did that until I could be at the brewery full time. Yeah. And so helped a very, very well-known brewery find a place.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, and other things. And so I learned a little bit from that. And, you know, like I said, I've just learned from a lot of really talented brewers who've been at different points in their career while I've known them.
Yeah.
So that helped put the syllabus together.
What drew you back here specifically? I know you went to college, and then why'd you decide, and worked in Colorado too, so why'd you decide to come back to Milwaukee?
It was the market.
The market?
So the guy I was just talking about, KC Brewing and Blending, phenomenal sour brewer. They make some of the best farmhouse fruited sours in the world. And he makes mostly barrel fermented. He makes, all barrel fermented sour and wild ales, and uses a ton of fruit in really cool ways.
Yeah.
Very talented guy. And he opened up right down the road from where I was living. And from Glenwood Springs to Aspen, it's a 50-mile stretch of river that has 4 communities that I think have roughly 50 to 60,000 full-time residents.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
In 50 miles.
Yeah.
And I think as of today's count, there's maybe 8 breweries in that 50 miles.
So there's like a ton of breweries for a limited amount of
and
people.
One of the best farmhouse breweries in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, this is heaven on earth to me. I love this valley. If we really want to chase the opportunity, like if we don't want to just do this, and also we were living in a very expensive area. So it's like if we want to be able to afford to live here, we're never going to be able to afford to have a brewery here.
Right.
Because look at all this competition, and there's not a lot of people. It's so seasonal with the tourists and a lot of talent here and other things. And at the time, like I said, it was Lakefront, Sprecher, you know, Brenner, who's since closed. Not a lot of Milwaukee Brewing Company. Not a lot of breweries were here at the time. And so we knew that this market needed craft beer. And so basically I looked at it like, all right, I've learned a lot in Colorado, and I've been to a lot of cool events, and I'm really starting to see what beer can be, and Milwaukee has no idea.
Yeah.
Let's go show them that. Let's go show them what beer can be.
So are you just like excited, like amped to just drive here and be like, what can I do here? Like, this is going to be so awesome.
It's the opportunity was here, you know? And I look at a big part of our job as education because like you pointed out, this is a different place. The beers we make are different. I make a lot of saisons, bière de gardes, gozes, styles that a lot of beer drinkers have no idea what they are.
Right. I don't know any of those are.
Yeah. Exactly. And those are like historical styles that have been being made for hundreds of years. But then we also make a lot of like, you know, double dry hopped hazy IPAs, which is like one of the newer things. And we're actually making today, we just brewed our first pastry sour.
Whoa, what is that?
So we're trying to marry the pastry stout category with the quick sour category. Like it's not a kettle sour. We do it in the tank, but we're making a beer that's going to taste like lemon meringue pie.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is... I would love to taste that eventually.
It'll be ready in a few weeks. So.
Oh yeah. I'll come back and get some. So is that kind of the stuff that drives you creatively forward, is like doing stuff like that like I've never heard of that before. Is that done?
Yeah. I've never heard of that particular pastry sours. A couple people have done.
Okay.
And again, I only know that because I pay really close attention.
Right. Yeah, you're up on the
where a lot of people, like, I told my buddy who's a brewer, and I was like, I'm going to make a pastry sour. And he's like, ha. Like, you're going to do what?
Yeah,
that sounds disgusting. Yeah. You know? And I was like, no, it's going to be really cool. Like, we're marrying the two worlds of, like, dessert-based beverages, which, like, a lot of these stouts are going that direction. Yeah. We make a couple of them.
Is it lighter? Like, because it's lemon?
Yeah, it's going to be lighter in color.
Okay.
Lower in alcohol. Tart. Quite tart.
Have you tasted it?
No. Well, so the sugar water, the wort, we just made it today.
Oh, okay. So
all it tastes is sugary water. Yeah. It has, I mean, I can kind of tell.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Like, that's the direction we want to head.
Yeah.
You know, moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's got a citrusy taste to it from the lemon peel.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's just citrusy sugar water right now.
Yeah. So I guess I'm just curious about this. Like, when you decided you wanted to start your own brewery, what was like the reaction from like your family and close friends? Were they like very supportive? Were they like, what? Are you a brewery? Are you serious?
I mean, there was some discussion in my family, like, you know, you want to do your own brewery? Like, do you even know how to do this stuff? You know,
but haven't you been doing it?
Yeah, I've been doing it, but like they just didn't really understand like the depth of involvement that I had and like the focus and dedication. I think people get scared
for you. Totally. I think a lot of that is like, oh, well, I don't want you to fail if you're going to, so I'm going to say you shouldn't do this.
You're going to spend a lot of money,
right?
You know, and be on the hook for this stuff. And are you sure you can be successful? You know, and so while that didn't faze me, I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I mean, while we were at Aspen, and again, this is not just me. Like, I worked on a awesome team of people.
Right.
And in my opinion, these awards belong to Aspen Brewing Company. They're not mine, although I definitely got to win them.
Yeah.
We won a gold at a World Beer Cup for
awesome.
one of our saisons. We won golds and silvers at the U.S. Open Beer Championship. We won golds and silvers at the Great American Beer Festival.
Wow.
That's impressive. We won some serious awards and had some great success. And again, it's because I worked with all these amazing people and we were always striving to make better beer.
Yeah.
We took, when each one of us came along and started the job there, the new person would come in and we'd talk about the beers and like maybe make some changes and things like that. Let's try this or try that. We're always just striving to make, and so that was the culture that I kind of came up in.
Okay.
Is this working with all these people who are super dedicated to just making sure they're putting out the best product they can.
Yeah.
And so that's carried through to 1840.
Yeah. So do you want to like just tell people where you guys are when you're open? I know you're open Friday through Sunday.
Yeah, so we're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday right now, and that will be our hours for sure through August of 2019.
Okay.
Starting in September of 2019, we will expand our hours.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. So basically, we have this membership program still.
Yeah.
There's 2 tiers now, which is different than last year. The higher tier, they come on Thursday nights.
Okay.
And then everybody else can come any other time and still get some perks and some things.
Yeah.
Where the Thursday people get more perks, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, going into next year, we're going to expand our hours and change how we do the membership program. We don't know exactly how it's going to look, but we have to keep it this way because we committed these people that we would do this through August.
Okay.
So for now, through August of 19, for sure, we're going to be every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's Friday 3 to 10, Saturday 11 to 10, and Sunday noon to 8.
Okay.
Every time we release new beers, we're releasing them a lot. So, for example, Labor Day of this year is when we expanded our hours to not be just once a month.
Yeah.
And in the first 16 weeks, we released 14 new beers.
Wow.
So we went on a tear.
Yeah, that is a lot.
We're still ripping through new beers, and we're going as fast as we can.
Yeah. Do you go back to the beers, or is it like limited release and then they're kind of over and then you want to do something else?
A little bit of both. So, for example, interesting timing, but last year we released an IPA in March called Orbital Emotion. We're brewing that beer tomorrow. Now, it's interesting because I would have liked to have it out by the vernal equinox because we use hops that are called Galaxy, Equinaut, only it used to be called Equinox, and Azaka. So between Galaxy and Equinox, I was like, oh, what a cool beer to brew on the Equinox, or like to have people enjoying on the thing, and like the label's celestial looking and all that.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to brew it again this year. I wasn't even thinking about the Equinox, and we just happened to randomly schedule it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the beer oh, we're just going to miss it. So the beer's going to come out. So we're actually almost brewing it on the Equinox, but either way, we do make beers again. The ones that we really like, we've brought back.
Okay.
But again, some of the barrel stuff, like I may have liked it, but it takes so long to make that they will come back. It's just going to be a while.
Yeah.
And really, when it comes to the barrel stuff, I'm still really exploring how and what I like about barrel fermenting and barrel aging. Like we're trying new things still. Whereas like my IPAs, like right now, I feel like I've got them dialed in. Like they're right where I like them to be. They're a very full, juicy mouthfeel. But they're smooth, they're not cloyingly sweet, or they're overly bitter, any of these things.
Yeah, I can attest to that. It's very good.
Yeah, like right where I like them to be. We've got it dialed in, but we've been making IPAs minimum of once a month, if not twice, 3 times a month now.
Okay.
And so we've been doing so many more of them.
Yeah.
Whereas like the barrel stuff, like they're expensive and we don't do as many as often because they take so long and they take up the space. So we kind of rotate them through them slower. So we're not getting back to those brands as quickly.
Yeah, and this is going to sound like a stupid question, but is there certain styles of beers that you do specifically in barrels only? And like there's tanks back there too, so I assume that's like, what's the difference between barrel aging and then just putting it in a tank?
Style, not so much, because we do saisons in stainless steel and we do saisons in barrels.
So there's crossover.
There is for sure. But for example, if we're going to make a beer sour, there's also crossover. So some we'll put in stainless and some we'll put in barrels.
Okay. So there's not like a recipe for like only barrel.
It's not like, oh, this beer can only be made in a barrel or in stainless. And really, if you think about it, it's because historically everything was made in a barrel.
Yeah.
And then as tanks, copper and then stainless and things became available,
more efficient to do it.
Exactly. People just moved it to there. And so there's no really wrong way to do it. I mean, look at all the weird beers we make, like lemon meringue pie, for example. We're making a blue beer with spirulina.
Blue?
Algae.
Like it's color blue?
Color blue.
Wow.
Yeah. Now it's going to end up being kind of like a deep blue-green, but I'm talking vibrant.
Is that going to turn your tongue blue, like when you like have a sucker, like a blue sucker?
That's something I don't know. We haven't made it yet.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, so we actually found an algae, a type of spirulina that they've actually isolated the blue pigment of it.
Whoa!
And it's a powder, and we're going to incorporate it into our beer and like make this really cool like aqua color.
Wow!
And like so, it's just because not many people are doing that.
I've never seen it.
And so, we don't know if it's going to be a hit, but we want to try it because it seems like it's going to be super cool.
How cool would that be to be pouring out, like someone orders something like, oh, you just have a blue beer coming out of it?
Exactly.
Wow.
And we do a lot of that. A lot of our fruit beers, when we've made pink, we've made deep reds.
Is that easy to do? Like to just put, because I'm assuming you don't want to use like obviously artificial colors and stuff like that. So you have to find natural ways to do it.
Yep. We don't use any colorant. Everything that you see us make is naturally derived. Like we use processes and ingredients to create that, and no natural flavors or anything like that. No extracts or anything. If I have hazelnuts in a beer, it's hazelnuts. It's not, a liquid extract.
Yeah. So are you just dumping hazelnuts into like it's not.
So what we did for our hazelnut beer or any nut beers, what we'll do is we'll roast the nuts usually and then crush them and put them in a bag and then either put them in a tank and then fill the tank with beer and let it sit on there cold for a couple of days. Yeah. Or we'll put them in an external vessel and recirculate out of the tank into that vessel and back into the tank for a couple of days. There's a couple of different ways to go about it.
Yeah. So when you put stuff like that, I'm just like thinking of all these questions. So when you put stuff like that in the beer, are there certain qualities that come out? It doesn't taste like nuts, does it? Like when you're like, oh, I can taste the nuts. Can you taste the nuts?
So you can tell me. I'm going to open this beer right now.
All right, we'll let you. What nuts are in this one?
This is hazelnut. So it's called Italian drinking chocolate. All right. It's an imperial stout that we brew with cacao nibs, Italian coffee, milk sugar, and hazelnuts. You're not allergic to lactose, are you?
No. Okay. That'd be really bad though. End this podcast in the ER trip.
Exactly. Thankfully, lactose is not really a ER. It's more of like a
just wait it out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But still, we don't want anyone to get sick. So now this beer has a lot of coffee and cocoa nibs.
I was going to say, I can taste that things, really.
Right?
Yeah.
So the nut and it just came out of the cooler. So the nut is going to come as it warms, and it's complementary. My brewing philosophy is balance. Okay. We always brew for balance. Some brewers, if they say there's hazelnut in their beer, it's all you're going to taste. It's going to taste actually more like vanilla extract, to be honest with you, because hazelnuts in that concentration taste more like vanilla extract. It's weird.
Yeah.
But, you know, for me, like, I just want nuanced flavors.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask. Is there certain things that you put in beer that doesn't taste like what it is? So, like, if you put, like, a certain, like, for example, this is not a good example, but, like, hazelnuts. Let's say you put hazelnuts into a beer, and for some reason, when you bring it out, it tastes like chocolate. Or something like that. Yeah. Are there ingredients like that?
Hops.
Yeah,
because you can smell a hop. You can put a hop in your mouth. It's going to taste bitter and green and grassy. And not really appealing. But the ways we can use hops these days make them taste like papaya or mango or stone fruit. You know, we can really citrus. We can push all these different flavors because the way we use the hops, we get those flavors to kind of come out in a way that tastes like other things.
How do you do that? Is it the timing that they're in there? Or?
Yes. Okay. Exactly. It comes down to time and temperature.
Okay.
Which is really all brewing is time and temperature.
Right. I mean, if you left me in this brewery and were like, Sam, go brew, I would be lost. It's so insane how complex it is and how much thought goes into brewing, just generally.
Totally.
I don't think people think about that.
I never really liked microbiology or chemistry, fluid dynamics, all these other like subcategories of sciencey things that I'm into now because I make beer. You know, it's funny how. You know, if it had just been about beer the whole time,
you would have.
Maybe I would have excelled in those areas that I was kind of like a B-, C- kind of student.
But I feel like that's kind of how you know how you love something when you things you generally didn't like or didn't enjoy. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I should learn more about that. I want to learn more about that because it'll help me now.
Yeah, when you can read a paper on microbiology and yeast health. You know,
and like not
fall asleep. You're into what you're talking about. So I just warmed that glass for you. I held out my hands for like 30 seconds to a minute to try to help bring the nut out a little bit more.
It definitely tastes different.
Yeah,
I'm not as sophisticated of a beer taster, but I can. It tastes less coffee-like.
Yep, as it warms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cold, the coffee flavor is the most prominent flavor.
Okay.
And then as it warms, the cocoa nibs and the hazelnuts are going to come out. More.
See, how do you know? How do you know that?
Experience.
You know what the crazy thing? You ever think this? I think this sometimes when I'm like thinking about history, and even this applies to brewing. It's like, how many people tried this and did terrible, terrible things or like poisoned somebody to get to the point where we're like, oh yeah, you can drink this.
It's like, crazy.
I'm not smart enough to do that.
Especially when you think about, we brew beer with bacteria in it.
Right.
But it's the same bacteria that makes yogurt.
Yeah.
But we had to get to a point where we figured out how to allow that bacteria to grow in an environment that made the beer sour or the yogurt fermented to the way where it was a tasty, stable thing.
Right.
And there's all kinds of other bacteria out there that you may have created an environment for the wrong one to grow. And like, what's going to happen, Yeah. So thankfully, we're at a point in history where all the people have died or been
all the people
sick.
did the necessary stuff to get to where we need to be.
Exactly. The science is dialed in now.
But yeah. I'm just always amazed about people like back in the day thinking of all this stuff. Like you could sit me in a room and I would not be able to brew a beer probably just off the cuff, like just thinking about it.
Can you bake a cake? I know I can't. No. But could you? Yeah. So that's the thing. You think like, oh, I'm baking a cake. It's just like follow the instructions.
Yeah.
Right. But that's where it's like, man, I can't bake a cake. And I think that's the proof that like, just because you have instructions doesn't mean you know. And that's why I'm actually just lucky, I think, that my first homebrew turned out all right, like semi-decent.
Right, because it gave you the oomph to keep on going.
If I had made just a drain pour of a beer, who knows, right?
Yeah.
I probably would have lost interest, moved on to something else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a good point. And this will be my final question to ask you. Do you think there's a moment in your life, I mean, I guess that could be one of them, where if things didn't turn out how they did, your life would be drastically changed? Like, was there turning points in your life where it was like, I could have done something different here, but I'm thankful that I didn't because now I'm at this point?
I mean, Yeah, like every couple of years, like every 5 years, maybe there's something like that.
Yeah.
You know, I left Wisconsin and moved to Colorado. Decided to leave there to come back here even though I was living in a beautiful place, working in beer and loving it. I decided to come back here for the opportunity to someday have a brew pub.
Yeah.
But then when we moved back here, my wife and I had set a 5-year plan to move back to the mountains because that's where we live. Yeah. Now I was here 6 or 7 months before her, but 5 years to the day that she moved to Wisconsin, we moved back to Colorado.
Really?
Yeah. And then we made the decision to start this business, and that was a huge thing, and still has continued to change our lives, you know? So there's always those moments. And then what's interesting about all of the moments is like, there's positive and negative to both of that,
right?
To everything, all those big moments that change your life. And I think that the challenge, right, is to focus on the positives.
Right.
And, cause you're here now.
Yeah.
You know, you can't change that stuff.
Might as well make the best of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, it's hard sometimes, like, especially when you're in the thick of it. In my life right now, like, I'm in the thick of it. Like, I have a 3.5-year-old, I have a 3-year-old puppy, I have a 1.5-year-old business, a 10-year-old marriage, you know, parents and grandparents and parents-in-law, they're getting older. All these things, there's just so much going on. Yeah. Like, in every category you group it.
Yeah.
And like, so, but let's just take a minute and not worry about any of that shit and step back and be like, all right, cool. Like, here we are, we're in the thick of it. And someday we're not going to be, and we're going to be bored as hell, you know?
Yeah.
So it's fun. I'm trying to focus on that, like, daily right now, because, you know, it ain't easy,
I
doing any of those things, but they're all very rewarding. To your question, like, there's been a lot of those moments, and we're going to continue to have them. And I'm almost like looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
You know? Like, what's the next crazy thing that's going to happen? That's going to change trajectory of where we're headed.
Yeah. So, you guys have a website, right?
Yes, absolutely. 1840brewing.com.
Okay. And your socials are all 1840 Brewing, right? Like Instagram, Facebook?
I think that Twitter's 1840 Brewing Co.
Okay.
But
if you
Instagram
search
and Facebook.
1840 on Facebook,
Yeah. If you go to our website, all the Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram links are all in the top right corner. So easy to find. Yeah. And if you reach out to 1840 in any way, you will get me. So feel free to reach out and say what's up.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I talked to you.
Yeah, exactly. So, here we are.
Yeah,
so
here
it wasn't that hard.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
I was intrigued by this concept. I think it's pretty cool. And I think it's just neat. Right?
Well,
like
thanks.
to go around and like just talk to interesting people.
Right.
I wish I had time to do it, and you're making time to do that. I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah. And it's always crazy to me, because it's like, we've been talking for over an hour now.
Sure.
And it never feels like an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're complete strangers. I've never met you before.
Yeah.
It's crazy how easy conversation is when you just like, you're not so worried and anxious about like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people are walking around like, oh, how do I talk to that person? Like, I'm so scared. Yeah. Especially like someone like you, not that you're like a scary person to talk to, but you own your own business. You know, you seem, you know, you got your life together. It's like, I feel like a lot of people would be scared to be like, oh, hey, how you doing? Like, which is crazy, because you're a lovely guy.
Well, and it's, I mean, I think that's a really interesting point, right? About like conversation and people in general. Like, we're all just here doing the same thing. We're
all just trying to, you know, have a good life.
And so like, but it's hard to remember that because of all this conditioning and things that we've had happen in our lives. Like, it's hard to remember, like, walking down the street. And, you know, this is an experience I had in college. Like, first couple of days in the dorms, you walk, hey, how are you doing? Hey, hello. You say hello to everybody. It's always like, what's up?
Right.
And then it was like 6 months later, and you're like walking by everybody.
Right.
And it's like, how do we just get back to that thing where it's like, hey, how are you, friend who walks on this earth like I do, and we're equal people doing our own thing, like that you have value as much as I do, and like that's a hard mindset to keep.
No, it's really hard, because it's also another thing of like, because you went to college in a different state, I went to college in a different state too, so like coming back here to Milwaukee and like trying to meet friends and stuff,
for sure,
it's like college is such a cool space, because it's like required events to meet people.
Yeah.
And you don't get that in the real world, really. So you should come here and meet people.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We have a family style bar. Sit on one side of it and meet some people across from it.
Yeah. It's a great place to meet people. Well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
Yeah.